guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a series review over the next 4 books in Seanan McGuire's The Wayward Children series. And I have a review for the first 3 books already up on my channel. And the first 3 books, I gave all of those books a 3 stars. I did enjoy book number 2, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, the best out of those 3 books. And that book is following the characters Jack and Jill. But even though I gave those books a 3 stars, I still enjoyed the series enough to keep going. So obviously that's exactly what I did. I will say for these next 4 books in the series, I did pick all of those up on audio, and I really enjoyed the audio for these books. I just feel like it gave me a different experience. I really loved the narration for the characters and for the children. And so if you are somebody that's hesitant with the series and you're not really sure if you want to continue, I would say try picking up the audio for at least one of the books. It might give you a different experience like it did for me, and you might want to continue on. So if you are hesitant, try one of the audios and see where you fall with that. But we'll go ahead and jump right into the reviews. So this first book is In an Absent Dream, and so this one is going to follow our main character by the name of Lundy. And if that name sounds familiar, it should, because this character actually shows up in the first book, Every Heart a Doorway. But this is primarily Lundy's story. And so in this one, she is this character that is really focused like on her studies. And so the world that she travels to is called the Goblin Market. And so in this particular world, how you are able to like get things is like you have to trade something in order to get something else. And if you are not able to like make a trade, or in this case how they kind of like have a term for that is called fair value, then you incur a debt. And if you're not able to pay off your debts, then something not so pleasant happens to you. And so in Lundy's world, she learns a lot about what is called fair value. And another big topic in this book is friendship. And in her world, she ends up making a close friendship with another young girl by the name of Moon. And so a really fascinating thing that happens in this book that doesn't really happen in the other ones with these worlds is that Lundy is able to go back and forth between her worlds and I guess you could call it like the real world. And so she is able to stay in her fantasy world for a little bit. And then after like a year, she's able to come back into the real world. And so she's really having a tough time leaving her family, especially her siblings, in particular, her younger sister. And so that is something that she has to deal with. And then something else that's a little bit different in this story that we don't really see in the other stories is that one of her parents has been to her world. And so they are trying to explain to her that everything is not all that it seems. And Lundy is trying to make this decision about whether or not she wants to go back to her world forever. And she has to make that decision, I want to say, before she turns 18. So we are following Lundy as she is trying to decide whether or not she wants to stay at the Goblin Market or if she wants to stay with us here in the real world. And I really enjoyed this story. This is the first book that I actually ended up giving a 4 stars. I enjoyed seeing her live at the Goblin Market. I like the topics of her learning about fair value and what it means to incur a debt and trying to pay off a debt. And then I also liked what it means to have a true friendship and what having debts and fair value and how that relates to your friendships and how that can actually play a part in your friendships and ruin a friendship. So I really enjoyed seeing that in this book. And I also like how these stories really intertwine with one another. We're definitely going to see that in other books, particularly in this next one. But I really like how Seanan McGuire is able to incorporate each of these stories into each other. So I really enjoyed this one. So then book 5, we have Come Tumbling Down, and we are back with Jack and Jill. Primarily we're following Jack, and she has come back through her door from the moors, and she is seeking the help of some of the students back at the school. And so we are following some of the other students. And so for this particular book, I would definitely say that you probably should have read books 2 and 3. So books 2, which is Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and then book 3, which is Beneath the Sugar Sky. And so in this one, since Jack has gone back through the door, back to the school. She is trying to get the help of some of the other students because Jill has actually taken over her body and Jack is in Jill's body, and Jack needs her body back so that Jill doesn't become a vampire in Jack's body. That probably sounds really confusing, and that will make sense had you read Down Among the Sticks and Bones. But I really enjoyed this story because we got to see all of the other characters from the other 2 books. And like I said, listening to the audiobook with the narration of all of the other characters, I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I did not realize how much I enjoyed all those other characters until we got all of those other characters together. Now, with that being said, in Beneath the Sugar Sky, those characters were together, but for some reason, that audiobook just did something different when somebody else is reading those characters' parts. So that's why I say, if you're a little bit hesitant, definitely get the audiobook. And I really enjoyed going back to the moors because I like just like the dark tone and the dark atmosphere. And I just liked Jack and Jill's overall story anyway, so I just liked being back in that world. And then some of the characters in here, like I really like seeing, like I liked Christopher and I liked Kate and I liked Sumi. Cora's also in here, but she's not really like my favorite character, but all those other characters, I really like them and I really like them in here. And then the overall message in here is like what it is to be a monster and what that looks like. So I really like the topic that's brought up in here and how they are exploring that. So I ended up giving this one a 4 stars. And so if you don't check anything else out on audiobook, if you don't check like any of the other ones out on audiobook, that's fine, but definitely check this one out on audiobook. I think you will enjoy it. So then next up we have book 6, which is Across the Green Grass Fields. And so this one is bringing up a whole new character by the name of Reagan. And so Reagan is a different type of girl, and she is learning a real tough lesson when it comes to friendships. And at the beginning of the story, she had 2 best friends, and she actually loses one of those friends when one of the girls decides that she doesn't want to be friends with the other little girl because of something that happened when they were playing. So it's all like little petty stuff. And so then Reagan ends up learning something about herself, and she ends up telling her only best friend, and that best friend ends up spreading the secret about her. And so because of that, she feels very alone. She feels betrayed, and that's how she ends up into her world, which is the Hooflands. And in her world, she is around centaurs and unicorns and these things called kelpies and all these magical like horse-like creatures. And so the main thing that she's learning about in her world is about friendship and about accepting yourself and about making sure that you're making true friends and what a true friend looks like. And I really enjoyed the beginning of this story and what Reagan was like learning about herself. And I don't want to say what the beginning of the story really was about because I don't want to spoil that, but I really liked where this story was starting off at. What I did not like about this story was her world, which is weird because the thing that I really like about this series as a whole is all of these like fantasy worlds that these children are like traveling to. Even if I don't like the characters, even if I can't really get on board with like the messages that this author is like trying to portray to us, I can at least get behind like the world that they're going to. But this Hoofland world is so boring. Oh my gosh. Ugh. I wouldn't even want to go there. Jesus Christ. I'd be like, get me out of here. It was so boring. And you would think that it wouldn't even be that boring. I mean, she's like around centaurs and like unicorns. Like it just sounds so great, but no, it's not. It was so boring. Oh my God. And like the whole plot of why she was there, I actually found it a little confusing. And I've never been confused in like any of these books, but I did not like this story. Now that I'm thinking about it, 3 stars was generous. But I ended up giving this 3 stars because the beginning of it, I just loved it so much. And just the topic of like friendship, I was like so behind the beginning of the story until she got to her world. And I was like, kill me now. But anyways, I'm really thinking about that rating. I did not. That was really generous. Anywho, beginning of the story is great. But yeah, so that's what this one is about. But if you like horses and that kind of thing, you probably would really like this one, but I wasn't feeling this one. And then last but not least, in the most recent one that came out this year was Where the Drowned Girls Go. And this one follows our main character by the name of Cora, and she shows up in book 3, I believe, Beneath the Sugar Sky. So this one, we find out that there is another school out there that handles children that has came back from these fantasy worlds, just like Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children. So in this one, Cora is dealing with everything that happened to her in book number 5 in Come Tumbling Down. And so she is tired of that. And she asked Eleanor if she could please go to this other school so that she can just forget that she ever went through a door. And so this other school, instead of having kids cope with like going through these doors, they help people forget that these doors ever existed. And so that's what Cora wants to do. So Eleanor lets her know, like, yeah, you can go to this other school, but just know when you go there, it's hard to leave. And Cora's like, okay, that's fine. Send me there. Cora gets there and realizes, oh, something's not all the way right with this school. And so we follow Cora as she is learning about this other school that is out there and learning about the sinister things that is taking place there. I also ended up giving this story a 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. We also have other characters that showed up in book number 3, Beneath the Sugar Sky, that I really enjoyed, and it's actually one of my a character that I think is becoming another favorite character of mine. And I would also say this was a really good one to listen to on audiobook with the different narrations of the voices. But this one, I also think has like a little bit of like a darker tone. And this has to do a lot with like friendships, sticking up for other people, accepting yourself. Cora is a heavyset character, and she has been bullied all of her life, and she has a hard time accepting the fact that she is a heavyset person. And it talks a lot about the time that she had tried to commit suicide. That is the reason why her door had opened in the first place. And so that is mentioned a lot. If that is a trigger for you, just know that that is brought up in here. It's also brought up in book 3. Which is her story in book 3. So just know that it is definitely talked about in here again. So I really enjoyed this story. Like I said, I enjoyed the darker tone. I enjoyed the topics. So I think Seanan McGuire is starting to win me over with these series, because these books are starting to get better and better. And like I said, I plan on probably from here on out just automatically picking up the audiobooks and making sure I'm listening to those instead of reading these physically. So that is all that I have for you guys. And I will have my review for the first 3 books in the series linked down below in case you guys are interested. But I will see you guys next time. Bye.